welcome back. This is our day 3 of beginners tutorial. So I hope you all have watched out my previous videos and I hope it's interesting and helpful. So let's begin with conditional operators like if or else. Depending on a particular condition, we would do either this or that, and when we want to write Python code to represent this, it looks something like this. There's the keyword if and then the condition that we are testing for and then a colon, and after the colon we have got an intended block of code which should be executed if this condition is true. But if it's not true, then we will skip to the else block and it's just the else keyword with the colon, and then this code block would execute if the condition is false. Let's check it with an example. Do you ever think that why does the bathtub doesn't overflow? The bathtub doesn't overflow because there is a piece of engineering in it called overflow. Here's the picture of overflow. So this means that whenever water reaches beyond a certain level above here, the water starts overflowing. So the bathtub doesn't overflow. In fact, we could represent this mechanism with a condition like this. Water level is equal to 50. If water level is greater than 80, then print drain water. But if it is not greater than 80 centimeter, in other words, else, in this case, we will just continue. So print continue. Let's put this into practice with a real life problem. Now, let's say that you have got a job at a theme park and your first job of the day is to write some code that replaces the ticket box. Now, there's a couple of things that you will need to think about. Firstly, in order for somebody to purchase a ticket to go on the roller coaster ride, they will need to be over 120 centimeter. So we have to check out what their height is, because if they are too short, then we won't be able to sell the ticket anyways. So let's try it out. First, I have used a print statement which is saying to print welcome to the roller coaster, as well as an input asking the user for their height in centimeter and then converting the string into a whole number or an integer, and then I am storing the value of this in a variable named or called height. Now we are going to check whether if the height that the user types in is greater than 120 centimeter. So we use the keyword if and then we check if the height is greater than 120 centimeter and then we add the colon. Now, when I hit enter, you will notice that automatically indent, because in Python, the spacing and indentation are really important. It tells the computer that the code I am about to write is what should be executed when this condition is true. So, what should happen if the height is greater than 120? Then print you can ride the roller coaster. But what should we print if the height is not greater than 120? Well, in this case, we would use the else statement to catch when that happens. And it's really important that don't write it here because this is intended over. Instead, you want it to be at the same indentation level as if statement. These two are centrally apparent. Now, after the else keyword, we again add a colon and then we hit enter. It's been indented again, and here we can write the code that should happen if the condition is false. Then print sorry, you have to grow taller before you can ride. So, the really important thing here are the condition which we are testing for and the syntax of this code and the keywords if and else as well as the colons that come after each of these lines and finally also the indentation. Everything that is indented after the if is a block of code. So this is indented and it's effectively inside this if. And if you mess up on the indentation, then you probably gonna get an indentation error. So let's run the program. They will ask you like this. For example, if I'm typing 130, then this is what you can see. Now, what if I type my height is 120? Then if we run, it will show that sorry, you have to grow taller before you can write. So what is the way to include 122? Instead of just using greater than symbol, we have to type greater than equal to symbol. These two symbols have to be next to each other. Now, when I run my code and if I type 120, it will show that you can ride the roller coaster. Now, these are called comparison operators. And we have already seen greater than, so lesser than is pretty self-explanatory. And we also seen greater than or equal to and less than or equal to. And there is two more, equal to and non-equal to. For example, if you wanted to check if somebody's height is equal to precisely 120, then you would use two equal to signs, and very often it gets a little bit confusing, especially if you are new to programming. When you are typing equal to signs, because sometimes we are typing 1 and other times we are typing 2. It's important to remember that when you have one equal to sign, it means that you are assigning this value to this variable. But when you have two equal to signs, you are checking to see if the value on the left is equal to the value on the right. So I hope that you understand the difference between them. Now, in addition to the height, there's another condition that we need to check for, namely the age. If somebody is over 18 years old, then they should be paying the adult price, which is, let's say, $12. But if they are 18 or under, then they should only be paying $7. So, how could we represent this extra condition that we need to check for in our code? Well, we could use something called a nested if else statement. We have seen our if else statement look like this, where it's only got two choices. If the condition is true, do this, otherwise do that. But in a nested statement, once the first condition is pass, we can check for another condition and then we can have another if else statement inside this if condition. In order for this thing to happen, this has to be true and this also have to be true. In order for this to happen, this condition has to be true, but this condition has to be false. So essentially the computer first looks at the larger picture, which is this first condition, and decides on whether it should go to the else block here or if it should go into the nested block inside the if statement. So what we have to do is that just add some more codes to that previous program of the roller coaster. We have to add that if height is greater than 120 or 120, then they will ask you your age. If your age is 18 or under, then you have to pay $7. If the age is over 18, then you have to pay $12. So let's do it using if else and nested if else conditions. So the place where we are going to nest our if statement is inside here. Notice how it's intended. It's intended inside this if block, and this already have to be true. Now here we are going to create another if and else statement, and the condition checks for the age. So we better ask them for an age. Let's say age is equal to input what is your age. Now we got hold of this age. We can say if the age is less than or equal to 18. In this case we are going to give them print please pay $7. Else if the age is over 18, they will give them print please pay $12. So now we have a nested if statement because this if and else statement lives inside the if statement. So the condition will only be checked if this is ready deemed to be true. Now, let's say our situation got a little bit complex. The boss comes over and checks our codes and says, wait. It's actually more price tiers than that. In fact, if you are less than 12 years old, you pay $5. If you are between 12 and 18, then you pay $7. And if you are over 18, then you pay full adult price, which is $12. Now, there are three possibilities. So, how do we represent this in our if statement? Well, we could use something called the Elif instead of having a simple if else statement, where there is only one condition. If it's true, do this, otherwise do that. You can add as many Elif conditions as you want. So we can check for condition 1. If that's true, then do A, but if that's not true, then we can continue and check for condition 2. If condition 2 is true, then we can do B, and finally if none of this condition is not true, we can do this final thing. So let's do it. If the age is under 12, then pay $5. If they are between 12 and 18, then you have to pay $7. If they are over 18, then you have to pay $12. Now, the first thing I'm going to check is if the age is less than 12. Under this condition, they should pay $5. So, print please pay $5. Now, the next condition should be created using an elif, which stands for else if. So, it means if this is not true, else if can you check it. If this is true, in that case, we have to print please pay $7. For example, if the age is not less than 12, so they are over 12, then are they under 18? Well, then this condition basically catches everybody who is between 12 and 18. And finally, if they are not less than or equal to 18 and they are not less than 12, then that's everybody else who is over 18. Now, remember that we can use many elif conditions between the if and else as we like. Now, up to this point, we have discussed about if statements, else statements, elif statements, as well as nested if statements. But the thing we haven't been able to do thus far is to check for multiple conditions in the same line of code. So, how would be able to combine different conditions and say is the pizza large and the user wants pepperoni and the extra cheese all in the same line of code? Well, to do this, we would need to learn about something called logical operators. So, these three of them are really useful: and, or, and not. So, let's take a look at the first one. When you combine two different conditions using an AND operator, they both have to be true. Both A and B for the entire line of the code to be true. If just one of them is true, like if A is true and B is false, then the overall thing evaluates to false. For example, I'm typing A is equal to 12, A greater than 10 and A less than 13. The answer will be true. And if I'm typing A greater than 15 and A less than 13, it will show as false. Now, if you only needed one of the conditions to be true, then you could use the OR operator instead. So if C or D were true, or if they're both true, then we will evaluate to true. It's only when both C and D are false does this statement actually becomes false. Now the final one is the NOT operator, and all that this does, it basically reverses a condition. So if the condition is false, then it becomes true. If it's true, then it becomes false. If A is equal to 12, not A greater than 15, we know that it's obviously false, but not operator just reverses it and say as that it is true. So that's all about today's video. So consider subscribing, and I will see you in the next video, and all of you please join in our WhatsApp community whose link is provided below. Until that, take care and bye bye.